A good knitting friend of mine came to me and asked me if I could possibly finish a project for her. She had knitted this probably a couple of years ago now, and since I am currently in the middle of so many different projects, I don't really have anything to show. So I thought that this was a great opportunity to show you finishing off this project. So if you are also curious about what's in this bag and want to see what it is I have to do to get it done, then keep on watching and we will soon find out. Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan and I like to make things, and I have so many projects going right now, it's kind of comical. I have quite a few projects that are on a bit of a time crunch because I have volunteered to pattern test, and so I'm really trying to whip those out. But when a friend of mine came to me last week and asked if I could finish this knitting project for her, I knew that I needed to get it done for her. So this friend of mine, she knitted this a couple of years ago, and I know that because she had given me 2 tubs full of yarn from her stash, and this was the project that she was working on when I went over to her house to pick up that yarn. And this isn't a transactional thing. I would have finished this regardless of if she had given me all that yarn, but considering especially that she did give me quite the stash boost, I decided that, I really do need to get this done for her. And it's a small project, it's not going to take me very much time, and what the heck, no big deal. So let's have a look inside this very cute bag, R.I.P. Joanne, and see what it is that we have to finish. We have this very cute bag, and inside she has the pattern. So it looks like this is from Universal Yarns, and it's just a basic kids shirt. And then we have the project itself, the needles she used, and the extra yarn. So here is our cute little shirt here. And as you can see, it is in 2 pieces, and oh no, we have some staining on the yarn. So I might be figuring out how to get that off for her as well. But we are going to seam the sides here. And then she had already started on the neckline, but it is not finished. So I'm gonna look in the pattern and see how many rows of garter stitch it takes before you bind it off. But it looks like she's really close, judging by the photo here. But as far as finishing, this should be a very quick project to really give a thank you to a good friend of mine who has given me a lot of things in the past. So while me finishing this is not because she gave me yarn, it's just always nice to be able to give someone back a little bit of a gift or a service when they gave you something as well. So I am going to have a seat and look at this pattern a little more in depth and see what all it is we need to do. Probably just start seaming. Okay, so this rusty stain is actually from these needles. These are Addie's, I believe, and they are brass, and it's just sat for so long. They're clearly brass, and I just grabbed a scrap t-shirt material here to give them a wipe, and it's coming off of my shirt here. So I'm gonna wipe these down. I might get a little alcohol and wipe this down really well before I start the knitting of the neckband. Let's try to get any residue that's still on there off. We don't want to put any more of that back onto this cute little project. So it looks like she did a purl and a knit, purl, knit, purl. So we are on the bind off row of the neckband. And this is where she was just like, I'm so sorry. I know I should have just finished this because it was so close, and she just hasn't really been knitting. So I am totally fine with doing such a small finishing touch so that she can give this to her granddaughter. I always like to stop and just assess if that's appropriate. Bind off. It looks like it should be okay. I am notoriously tight when it comes to binding off. And oh my gosh, this is another sign that this is a good friend because it's magic loop, and I hate knitting magic loop. I always hate the cord getting in the way. It's just annoying. Just a couple more stitches. Okay. It is now bound off. And that looks pretty good, right? I mean, it does seem a little wide, but toddlers have disproportionately big heads. So I think I'm just gonna keep it like that. Cut it. I will weave that in. I am seaming this. I need to seam the sides together first, and then we're gonna put a little ringer edge on the sleeve as well. I'm gonna cut a length of this lighter colored yarn. So I'm gonna tie this on right at the underarm seam. I'm going to do this from the front side, so I'm going to put it together just like it's going to be worn, and then I'm going to do sort of a duplicate stitch under the arm and then transitioned into a ladder stitch. So I've already done this little bit here, and I just came through this side, so I'm finding the next V right here. I'm going to slide under that, pull my yarn through taut, but not like crazy tight. And then on this side, I'm doing the opposite. So see how the V is going the opposite direction? Going across there, pull it snug, and then you end up where everything just sort of lines up. See how this row of V's just leads right into this row of V's, and so it makes kind of an invisible seam once it's done. And then as fate would have it, that's my last one to go this direction. So now I am properly oriented to go down the sides. So for this, I'm going to hook ladders that are in between the actual stitch. See, here's the V, and that's the ladders in between the stitches. I'm going to hook under 2 of those and pull, not super tight, just a bit. And then I'm going to go on the opposite piece, and I'm going to hook the exact same distance. I'm going to do 2 ladders right next to the stitch. Pull that slightly snug. And at first it's probably not going to look great because there's not enough stitches to really pull. So each time I'm going 2 stitches on either side. And see how it's getting that seam in between? Pull it a teeny bit and you have a nice little seam. So I'm just going to continue that all the way down. Okay, I have this much done, and I'm just holding it up to make sure that everything's still looking pretty aligned and it looks like we should be good. If you have a little too much on one side, you can compensate by only grabbing underneath one ladder on one side or grabbing a couple of extra on the other just to even things out. I got to the end of my seam, everything lined up. I didn't have to fudge anything. So now I'm just going to tuck this back through the work. And then inside you have this really nice, neat seam. And I'm going to use that to weave in this end. I do tie knots in mine, particularly since this is for a kid and it's going to get washed in the machine, I'm sure. So I always tie a knot in the end and then just hide end of that yarn inside the seam allowance here. So it's got that bump and I'm just going through the ends of that to hide this. And I need to have a little bit purple. And we're going to do the same for the garter stitch section. Garter stitch, I am much less precious about seaming it because it looks bumpy on the outside anyway. So I'm just tying in a piece of yarn, and then we're just gonna take a bump, put it through, grab a bump from the other side, and do that on each row. It's funny because I just had to seam a bunch of garter stitch for a testing project last night, and I never knit garter stitch, so I've really not had to seam it all that often. Most of the things I've done have been seamless or didn't require any seaming, so it's kind of funny that I'm doing so much garter stitch seaming in just a couple of days, but such is life sometimes. I like to make sure I've pulled down. I don't want the end to not be as elastic as the rest and then it kind of rides up on the side seams. That always looks unprofessional to me. So, alright, now that I stretched it a little, I have just added a knot, and then I'm going to weave that end in. Get the excess. So here is my one side seam done. Let's go ahead and do the other side exact same way. All right, we have officially a shirt. It is completely seamed. I haven't woven in all of the ends, but I'm going to do that after I do the sleeve edging. So the next step is I'm supposed to pick up stitches in the purple around the sleeves. And since I hate doing magic loop, we're going to use DPNs. So I've pulled out my size 5 DPNs, and I'm just going to go around this edge, and I'm going to pick up the amount of stitches it tells me for this size. I have picked up my stitches, and so now I'm supposed to work garter stitch for 5 rows. And I thought that this would be a good point to tell you about my friend. So before she moved here, she lived in Montana, and she got to work in a yarn store in Montana. And so when she moved here, she ended up using a lot of her yarn to cushion things in the moving van. And then once she got all that done, she went through it all and decided to really pare back. And she had all these tubs full of yarn, and she invited me over to come and pick what I would like. And I ended up taking all of it because it was really nice yarn. It was higher end brands, like yarn store brands. We weren't talking acrylic like I was used to being able to get here. And so I made several projects out of yarn that she gave me, and I'll actually put some over here to show you, and just beautiful yarns. And so I am so grateful that she thought of me and let me have that opportunity to play around with her yarn, particularly in the time that she gave it to me, because I did not have the money to buy yarn like that myself. And I had always planned on making a video about just how much yarn she gave me. I ended up covering my queen size bed with it at the time, and it covered the bed completely, and I had to do it again because it was just so much yarn. So I think it was like 1 2/3 covering my queen size bed is the amount of yarn that she gave me. And she actually gave me even a skein of Kiviot yarn, and 2 contrasting colors too. So I've always planned on making a hat out of Kiviot, but it's just so dang hot here that I would probably never wear a Kiviot hat. So until I'm going to go somewhere really truly cold, I have not made that hat yet. So one day I will have a Kiviot hat, all because she decided she didn't want to use it and thought of me. And I am so grateful for that. It was just so thoughtful that she thought of me in that time. And so I'm glad that I could give a little of my time back to her. Yay, I have both of them knitted. And then I just have to weave in the ends. So this is in the underarm. Not really that much rhyme or reason to it. I'm really just trying to make sure that the ends are secured and they're not gonna come out and make anything unravel, especially since this is part bamboo yarn. Bamboo is notorious for splitting. So just want to make sure it's really woven in there for the child that will be wearing this. Now I have to make this tiny little pocket. So it gives me directions on how big it needs to be, and I'm just going to use my DPNs again for this because I don't want to use the needle that the brass was reacting. And then this is just in stockinette stitch for 2.5 inches. So I'm just gonna knit myself a square. I can't help but be reminded of an organization that does this for people who have passed away. So there is an organization called the Loose Ends Project, and it's a group of crafters who have gotten together and they volunteer to finish projects that your crafter in your family or whoever it is that you're close to weren't able to finish. If they passed away in the middle of a project and you would really like to have the finished object, you can contact Loose Ends Project, and you as a crafter are able to volunteer to finish other people's projects. And I think this is a really awesome chance to give back, honestly. I mean, obviously, this is a much smaller scale, and my friend is not gone, but she still did this work and wanted her grandkids to actually get to enjoy it, and she knew she wasn't going to be the one finishing it. So she asked me if I would mind, and of course, I didn't. And recently, I saw Anna Hrachevek of Mochi Mochi Land put up a post about how she had volunteered with the Loose Ends Project, and she ended up doing one of my favorite Alan Dart patterns that I have always looked at and thought about making, the Dickensian mice. Like, these are absolutely adorable. And somebody in someone's family had started, I think they finished the body and a couple pieces of one of the mice and then started the outfit for another one. And that's it. And Anna volunteered to knit the whole rest of the set so that their family could have that as a memory of their departed crafter family member. And it just really goes to show that the things that we make are so much more than just an object to the people who we care about. You know, you can leave a legacy not just in your life, but things that you have spent your time and given of your time and love for the people that you care about. So if you are interested, I will link the Loose Ends project below. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just think it's such a cool idea. And so if you happen to have some time and want to give back to the community in some kind of way with your crafting ability, I think it's a great organization to support in whatever way you're able. I have done my little 2.5-inch square. So now I am supposed to snip that. We're going to add the purple at the top. And it says to do 6 rows in garter stitch. All right, I have finished the knitting. Snip it off. And then I'm not even going to bother to weave in the ends yet. Well, that's a lie. I'm going to weave in this one end here because I don't want it to end up hanging out, and I don't want it to get in the way while I'm sewing the rest of this up. I'm going to do the same kind of thing that I did before. I'm going to figure out the position that I want it to be in, and then I'm going to just go in the ladders in between and make it nice and seamless. All right, I have all of my stuff seamed on. Now I just have to weave in the ends, and this will be finished. All right, it is completed. I am very pleased with how this came out. My kids have actually requested I make one for them now, so I guess that's a good sign. It's very soft. This is made out of Universal Yarns Bamboo Pop, so it's mostly bamboo and it's nice and cushy and soft. I did steam it so that the pocket would lay a little smoother. I don't have any dolls or children who are the right size to wear this, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. It's very cute, and I'm hoping that I can eventually see it on its new recipient. So I hope that this can inspire you, that you can give a little of your time, even if it's not for someone that you know directly. I know that this will be appreciated and that they'll be able to remember that their grandma made this for them. And so if you are interested in the Loose Ends project, I will link that below. Again, even though mine isn't loose ends, it's the same kind of idea that you can use your talents to benefit somebody else. So that is all that I have for you today. If you like this, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to stick around and see other things that I make or work on in the future. I am always knitting, sewing, crocheting, all kinds of things. So if you are interested in that, I'd love it if you stuck around. because you never know what's going to come up next. And until next time, I hope that on this Valentine's Day weekend that you have people showing love to you and how appreciated you are in their lives. And I know that at least part of mine will involve some knitting for the people in my life that I love.